Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking how Datadog's Bits AI agents are, quite literally, revolutionizing complex cloud environments. Look, if you've ever been jolted awake at 3 a.m. by some cryptic server alert, just staring bleary-eyed at a glowing screen, trying to figure out what the heck just crashed, well, you know the exquisite pain of passive monitoring. But today, we're moving from a world of simply watching our software break to a world where software actively heals itself. It's going to be a fun one, so let's get into it.
Okay, let's kick things off with a crucial reality check, a question that really defines the modern tech stack. Is your IT infrastructure monitoring passive, or is it autonomous? For a long time, for almost all of us, the answer has been purely passive. You set a threshold, you wait for it to break, a siren goes off somewhere, and humans scramble to fix it. But, as we're going to see today, that old model is rapidly collapsing under the sheer weight of modern data demands.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll hit the cloud complexity crisis, look at the shift from passive to autonomous, dive into Bits AI's autonomous detection, investigate actionable context, close the remediation loop, and finally, wrap up with the massive market demand for agentic AI.
All right, starting with Section 1, the cloud complexity crisis and the incredible strain of modern AI workloads. So as companies are racing to deploy these massive generative AI applications, they are hitting an absolute brick wall. We aren't just dealing with your standard web apps anymore, right? We're talking about sprawling, incredibly complex GPU clusters and heavily token-reliant workloads just colliding. To put that into perspective, recent data shows that 5% of AI model requests are actually failing simply because of capacity limits. That's 1 in 20 requests just dropping dead. And human engineers, who are already totally burned out from alert fatigue and fragmented toolsets, simply can't triage these failures fast enough. The infrastructure has just become way too fast and too dense for human speed monitoring.
Which brings us right to Section 2, from passive to autonomous. This is a true paradigm shift in observability.
To really grasp this shift, you kind of have to look back at Datadog's trajectory. Back in 2010, they totally flipped basic infrastructure monitoring on its head, giving teams a baseline of visibility. By 2017 and 2018, they broke down those stubborn silos between devs and ops by unifying APM and log management. But 2026 is the real inflection point. With their massive Dash announcements, introducing this suite of agentic AI capabilities, the game completely shifts from just observing to taking action.
You can see the stark contrast here between the past and the future. Passive monitoring is the old grind we're all agonizingly used to, right? Humans staring at dashboards, doing slow, painful manual triage, and relying on these rigid, static threshold alerts that, let's be honest, go stale the second a new code deployment drops. But autonomous operations? That's our new reality. Instead of waiting for a crash, your infrastructure actively detects anomalies using historical baselines, fires up an AI to instantly investigate the root cause, and then securely executes self-healing auto-remediation. It's a fundamental, almost sci-fi leap forward in how we manage tech stacks.
Let's move into Section 3, Bits AI autonomous detection. Let's look at exactly how this tech finds the problem first.
So the modern incident lifecycle arc boils down to 3 core steps. First, you detect, then you investigate, and finally, you remediate. Datadog's Bits AI essentially acts like a highly skilled, permanently embedded coworker who operates continuously across every single phase of this loop. It doesn't clock out, and it definitely doesn't get overwhelmed when an alert storm hits.
Focusing on step 1 for a second, let's talk about bits detection. The old way of doing things meant you'd manually set a threshold. Actually, scratch that. You'd usually guess a threshold for every single new endpoint. Total chore, right? Bits detection throws that entirely out the window. It autonomously creates and maintains its own coverage based on your actual real-time traffic patterns. It learns your historical baselines, meaning it adapts on the fly as your services change. If your e-commerce site always sees a massive traffic spike every Tuesday morning, Bits AI knows that. It's not going to wake you up with a false alarm. It just finds the real, impactful degradations completely on its own.
Okay, Section 4, investigation and actionable context. We are shifting from basic alerting to AI-driven troubleshooting.
Once a problem is detected, you have to instantly find the root cause. To handle this, Datadog acts like a team of super specialized coworkers. First up is the Bits AI SRE. This is an always-on agent trained on thousands of real-world incidents, and it can instantly pinpoint root causes for incredibly complex issues. Then you have Bits Memories, which is literally mind-blowing. It actually retains your team's operational knowledge by scraping past postmortems and Slack conversations. So your team never has to painstakingly relearn a failure. The AI just remembers the fix from 6 months ago and hands it right to you. And finally, Bit's infrastructure operations sits there constantly triaging complex host and Kubernetes errors, flagging things like creeping disk saturation long before they snowballed into a massive customer-facing outage.
Now for the absolute holy grail. Section 5, closing the remediation loop, which brings us to self-healing infrastructure.
The absolute game changer here is that Datadog doesn't just tell you what's broken anymore. It actively fixes it. Bit's remediation steps in the millisecond a root cause is found. It can securely execute API calls, run kube control commands to quietly restart a failing Kubernetes pod, or even write direct code fixes. But listen, here's the most critical part for any IT professional listening right now. It does all of this strictly within human-defined guardrails. You are the boss. You dictate the exact risk preferences. It will only take actions that you've explicitly pre-approved, so you get totally safe automated resolution without any fear of an AI going rogue and nuking your production servers.
And for the developers out there, this is where it gets incredibly powerful. Bit's code actually closes the everyday dev loop. It embeds right into your APM and error tracking like a tireless senior engineer. When it spots a recurring bug, it tracks down the affected code. But here's the real magic. Because it's looking at real production telemetry, the actual traces and logs, it writes a highly contextual fix grounded in reality, not just some blind guess. It runs validation tests, and then it automatically opens a ready-to-merge pull request. Just think about that. It completely automates the soul-crushing cycle of patching bugs, which frees up your engineers to do what they actually want to do: build cool new stuff.
Let's wrap up our explainer with Section 6, Market Demand for Agentic AI. We've seen the tech, now let's look at the financial validation.
A 121% net retention rate. That is a massive indicator of market trust. In plain terms, it means the average customer from a year ago is now spending 21% more on the platform today. People aren't just stubbornly sticking around because switching is hard. They're eagerly doubling down. They're buying into more modules and deepening their reliance on the platform, especially as their own AI infrastructure gets more and more complicated.
And trust me, the wider market is absolutely taking notice. Datadog's stock surged almost 30% after their recent earnings. Why? Because 14 of the top 20 AI companies in the world are already deeply integrated with them. Datadog's LLM observability features are helping these bleeding-edge companies solve massive operational headaches. They're answering questions like, why are my token costs suddenly going to the moon? Or why are my obscenely expensive GPUs just sitting there underutilized? The market doesn't just see Datadog as a monitoring tool anymore. They see it as the essential, foundational picks and shovels platform for the entire AI boom.
I absolutely love this quote from a recent market analysis by Futurum Equities. It just perfectly nails this transition to self-healing infrastructure. Software isn't dead, it is fully awake. We aren't dealing with passive tools just sitting there waiting for humans to click a button anymore. We are dealing with awake, agentic entities that constantly monitor, investigate, and optimize themselves in real time.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. When your infrastructure finally operates autonomously, when Bits AI is handling that grueling 3 a.m. detection, writing up those tedious postmortems, and drafting up the bug fixes, how will your organization use its human ingenuity to innovate? If you aren't perpetually bogged down just fixing what's already broken, what incredible new frontiers will your engineering teams build next? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I will catch you on the next one.